Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the September 26th, 2024 TRPA Hearings Officer meeting to order. It is 2 p.m. My name is Marcia Birch, and I'll be serving as the hearings officer today. First item is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I did notice a typo on agenda item VE. It says public right of way, but it should have said public right of way.
Okay. All right, so that correction will be made. That's not really substantive, so that's fine.
Yes.
Any other changes to the agenda? All right, seeing none, I will approve the agenda as it was posted. Item 3, public interest comments for no action. Any member of the public who wishes to address the hearings officer on any item that is not listed as a public hearing item on the agenda may do so at this time. Public comments on any public hearing item will be taken at the time those agenda items are heard. The hearings officer is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public that are not listed on the agenda. All right, so any public comments in the room on items that aren't on the agenda? All right, so we don't have any. Jessica, if you could check online.
All right, if any member of the public would like to address the hearings officer at this point, you can raise your hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen and I'll call on you. There are no hands raised.
All right, so we will close the public interest comments. Announcement of appeal rights. Any decision of the hearings officer is appealable to the TRPA governing board. The notice of appeal, which can be found on TRPA's website, and associated fees must be filed within 21 days of the hearings officer's decision. All right, so this brings us to our public hearing items. Item A is the Hazley Family Trust Land Capability Challenge, 422 Agate Road, Placer County, California. Assessor's parcel number 116-060-046, TRPA file number LCAP 2024-0166. And this is Julie Rolzani.
Yes, Julie Roll with TRPA. So as Marcia said, this item is a land capability challenge, and it was reviewed in the field by our soils consultant, Phil Scholes. And based on his evaluation, staff recommends changing the land capability from class 1C to classes 5 and 6. We have not received any public comment on this. And I think we have Phil on the line, so he can give us just a brief overview of his findings in the field. And I think we may have, Abby Edwards as a consultant on this one. So we'll see if she's online too.
All right.
Great.
Okay. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Julie. This land capability challenge was for a residential lot, and it's located in an area where we have done a lot of land capability challenges. It's mapped having a soil type, a very stony, shallow depth of bedrock kind of soil for a fairly large area. But over the years, the challenges have found that while there is bedrock out there, there's lots of space between that bedrock that qualifies as a deep soil. So going from what's known as the SM, the stony soil map unit, to something else is not an unusual thing. This particular challenge had a little bit of interest to it in terms of a couple of things. One is that if you look at the map, we show a land capability delineation that sort of goes diagonally through the site. And that just happens to be where there's a significant topographic change. There's sort of a hillside that slopes down from the top of the page down towards the center of the page, and then it sort of flattens off a little bit. And it turns out that the soils on the slope are sort of this stony soil mapping, but in fact, it's a deep soil. And what's sort of down in the lower part of the soil, the flatter part, is an old lake bed of Lake Tahoe that's got a mantle of rock and soil that's eroded from the hillside above it. So we end up with a slightly different delineation on soil types. It's higher capability on the higher ground, and it slopes towards the class 5 in the sort of the south and west part of the site. But both of them are considered to be a sort of a high capability soil. The only other unusual aspect of this delineation was that they have done extensive amount of construction on the site, and the entire center and west part of the site, has been basically regraded. So when we do a land capability challenge, we like to find a location that's relatively undisturbed. And so you see on the map here in the lower right-hand corner, that's where our soil pit was for describing that sort of that lower terrace of the site. And then since they had already disturbed an area for that hillside, we did have some construction photos, and that in the staff report, we can see from a photograph exactly the kind of soil type we have seen on other land capability challenges. So we had a little bit of a hybrid, but it was very consistent with other land capability challenges.
Okay, I see that construction photograph that you're referring to. Thank you, Phil.
Sure.
That was helpful. And you said we don't have any public comments on this?
No.
Okay, so I don't have any other questions, so I'm gonna go. Was the other representative of the applicant on the line?
Was it Abby? I don't see Abby on the line.
Okay, that's okay. So do we have any public comment on this item? Anyone in the room? No? So let's go online, Jessica.
All right. Anybody online would like to address the hearings officer regarding this item? Please raise your hand now. Oh, I do see Abby online. She just raised her hand. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Abby.
Hey, this is Abby Edwards from Tahoe Land Planning. We don't have any comments regarding the land capability challenge results, and we're very pleased with the results. And yeah, it was an interesting project. The challenge went after the new house went in, but this is great, and we're very pleased.
All right, thank you.
There are no other hands raised to comment on this item.
All right, then I will close the public comment on this item and take action. I will approve the proposed land capability challenge as it was presented in the staff report. All right, and we will move on to item B. This is the Kerr West Holdings LLC Land Capability Challenge, 826 Jennifer Street, Washoe County, Nevada, APN 125-223-04, TRPA file number LCAP 2024-0016. And this is also Julie's item.
Yes, Julie Roll again. So yes, another land capability challenge. And this one was reviewed by our other soils consultant, Marshall Munike. And based on her site evaluation, staff recommends changing the land capability from class 3 to class 4. And we did not receive any public comment on this one either. And I think we also have Marshall online to give us an overview of her findings.
Marshall is online.
Hi, yeah, this is Marshall. Yeah, this site is also an area that was mapped as a shallow soil, but this was an Oompa soil, shallow volcanic soil with volcanic colluvium over either volcanic mud flow or bedrock. And the pit was indeed much deeper than that. And so it is not the Oompa soil right away. Normally that would become the Jorge soil, but this soil had like till material and outwash under at the base of the pit. So it was like colluvial volcanic material over an old glacial outwash material, which is, those soils are mapped just to the southeast of the Mount Rose Highway. I didn't mention that this is an incline partway up Mount Rose Highway. And those soils would be the infill and the meek soils. And it's not like either one of those soils because it has finer textures at the bottom and it doesn't have as many stones and rocks as the meek soil. So it's kind of a mixed soil that doesn't fit any good category. And so it's mapped as an XXX soil. Then based on the slopes becomes class 4. And that's about all I have. Any questions?
Okay. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you. The staff report was clear and that was helpful. And so I'll go ahead and open it. Is there anyone else who, representative for the applicant on the line? Oh, here we go,
Yep.
in person.
Yeah, Gary Taylor, we could, agree to all the findings that your staff, approved, for this, land capability challenge.
All right, thank you. So I'll go ahead and open this one up for public comment. This is item B. No one in the room, so let's check online.
If any member of the public online would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by pressing on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
All right, well then I will close public comment on this item and take action and approve the proposed land capability challenge as it was presented in the staff report. And we'll move on to item 5C. This is Mumford modification of eligible historic resource, 791 Price Lane, El Dorado County, California. Assessor's parcel number 021-210-103. TRPA file number EIFP 2024-0642. All right, and Julie, this is your last
All right,
item.
Julie here again, one more item. So this one is a proposed modification to an eligible historic resource within the Fallen Leaf Forest Tract. So that's like a little historic district near Fallen Leaf Lake. And as you can see in the picture, what's existing is just this pretty small cabin with deck on the front and the back. I think that's the north and the south side of the house. So they're just proposing a small bump out to increase the living area. I think it's about 90 square feet. And then let's see, the other main change is to reorient the roof. So it would be shutting to the sides rather than front and back.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. I think there's just a couple minor changes to windows, but nothing major there. And the other exterior will remain the same. So because it's let's see, we've got Mike Dill here to represent the owner. So I don't know if we want to make any comments or if you have questions.
Well,
first.
I have a question for you. It looks like this is, pretty consistent with the ones we've done before where they do the resource recovery plan,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty
Yeah.
standard mitigation if you're going to modify or demolish a historic resource.
Right.
So what that will do is they're gonna hire a qualified historic architect to document, take photos, record the history, the ownership of the property so that it's not, lost as is existing right now. And that will ultimately be donated to the local historic society.
Okay.
So we can keep record on that and we'll keep record in our file as well.
Okay.
So that's how we've been handling the historic
Yeah,
modifications
so
in
like
recent years.
Okay, so if we could hear from the applicant.
Hi, good afternoon. Mike Dill with Aspen Environmental Services. I represent the Mumford family. Thanks for your time today. Yes, the Mumford property was built in 1952. This is something they've had problems with the snow shedding on the decks and at the front walkway for 70 years now. And so they finally realized that they're going to take the roof off, change that dormer so that the dorm faces the lake and the snow sheds off to the side of the buildings. While the family's expanding, they're also going to expand their kitchen a little bit in one of the lower bedrooms just to make the kitchen larger to service the family. The only comment I did also want to make is that in reviewing the staff summary, I want to make it clear that the Fallen Leaf Historic Tract is a potential tract. Judith Marvin mapped that out a few years ago, but it hasn't been adopted or pursued by either TRPA, the county, El Dorado County, or the state. As an actual historic tract. So right now it's a designated potential historic tract versus an actual designation with the state. So just that clarification and happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. I don't have any additional questions at the moment.
Thank you.
And I'll add, I have not received any public comment.
Okay, so that was my next question.
Yeah.
And do we have anyone else from the applicant? Or Mike's covering that? Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone in the room would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, Jessica, will you please go online?
Great. If any member of the public online would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by using the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
Okay, so then I'll close public comment. I feel like the staff report was very straightforward. These changes seem like I would want to make these changes too if I owned this property. And it's going to be, you know, very consistent. So this all looks good to me. So I will go ahead and take action and approve the findings contained in the staff summary, including a mitigated finding of no significant environmental effect. And I'll approve the project based upon the staff summary, the record evidence, subject to the conditions contained in the attached draft TRPA permit. All right, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to item 5D. This is Dunlap Single Family Dwelling Addition, 1708 Lakeshore Boulevard, Washoe County, Nevada. Assessor's parcel number 130-332-13, TRPA file number ERSP 2024-0326. And this is Allie's item.
Yes, this is Allie Borowski, and this project is at a single family dwelling. The area it is located on the east shore, it's considered a special use, which is why we brought this project to the hearings officer. The project includes a new 2-car garage with living space above. It will be connected with an elevator to the existing residence. And I think that's the majority of what I want to share about the project.
Okay.
Oh, actually, let me say one more thing.
Yep.
Yeah, the on-site parking is the only existing on-site parking they have on this property is 18 square feet, which is why they are constructing a 2-car garage so they can get their cars out of the right of way, which is important because this is on Highway 28. So we are allowing them to transfer in some extra coverage to meet that need.
Yep, I saw that. And then kind of this public health and safety sort of balancing with that. Okay.
Yes.
And there also is, not unusual, but there is the height is using the segmentation that's available in the code.
That is correct. So the first segment, the one on the street, will be 28 feet in height. That's the max allowable. And then the other 2 segments will meet the code section 37.
Yeah. Okay, I see that. Yeah, so I did read through all this. I don't have any questions at the moment. Have we had any public comment?
We have not.
Okay. So is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant?
Bill's team was going to join virtually on
There.
Yes, I am here. If you guys can hear, my name is Alec Bartroy. I work for Gill and Farr.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you guys for allowing us to present on behalf of the property owner. We definitely do support the staff report and the decision and all the conditions of approval. We do appreciate this, being that this is a residential area, but it is kind of a unique situation that they do require special use here. So I just want to say that, and we are in agreement in all the conditions for approval.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't have any questions noted about this, so we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Would anyone like to comment on item 5D? Seeing none, Jessica, could you please check online?
Any member of the public would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by using the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment on this item.
Okay. All right, well, I will close public comment. And I will take action to approve the required findings, including a finding of no significant effect, and approve the proposed project subject to the conditions in the draft permit. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you.
All right, we are on our last public hearing item, item 5E. New Singular Wireless PCS LLC Public Service, new pole top cellular facility, public right of way, corner of Dollar Drive and Observation Drive, Dollar Point, California, TRPA file number ERSP 2024-0264. And this is Paul's item.
Yeah, Paul Nielsen, TRPA. This is a new cellular facility in the Dollar Point area. It's located in the Dollar subdivision, which is off Highway 28. It will be essentially situated in an area that has an existing overhead utilities. There's an existing 30-foot tall telephone pole there now, utility pole. There'll be a 20-foot extension on top of that with the antennas wrapped around the top. So the total pole height will be 50 feet, again, about 20 feet higher than what exists today. It'll be filling coverage gaps for our cellular service in the area. The panels will be painted dark brown. This is not a monopine. This is not a new cell tower. This is often referred to as a type of micro cell site. We have received one public comment from a Mr. John and Ms. Lori Brook, 125 Observation Drive, which is in the area. It's about a quarter mile away. And they have expressed concern about the visual impacts of this facility from the common area facilities of the Dollar Point Association. So the Dollar Point Association is a type of homeowners association. And the pole is located immediately adjacent to their common area pool. The tennis courts are a little further away. There's a common area building. And so they have expressed concerns, again, not from a residential homeowner impact standpoint, because they are about a quarter mile away, but as members of this homeowners association property. We have not heard from the homeowners association in oppositions to this project. And the application did include an alternative analysis. That alternative analysis looked at, I believe, 3 other locations, 2 of which would have been closer to the highway. They would have presented potentially more potential impacts to TRPA's scenic thresholds. And this site is about 200 feet back from the highway. And those other sites would have been closer. So you've got threshold impact considerations for those other 2 sites, and they were discounted. The 3rd site, as I recall, did not provide the service sort of capacity needed for the new cellular site. It wasn't plugging the coverage gaps that were needed to be covered by this project. So because of those facts, staff is not recommending a change in the recommendation. We're still recommending approval. And the applicant's representative is here today if you have any questions of him. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. So is that the visual sort of simulation?
That is the simulation.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So you can see on the bottom, let's see, on the top is the existing pole,
Right.
You've got the common area facilities back in here. The pool's here, that's a common area building. The highway is back this way, so this is actually a view looking sort of, from the highway towards the facility, and you can see the addition on top. Here's the existing line that's attaching here, and then that's the 20-foot addition with the antennas, radio antennas, different types of antennas wrapped around the new pole.
And the swimming pool that is behind those trees.
It's behind the tree, okay. Back in this open area right here.
Okay.
And so one of the findings from a visual standpoint was that, there's a good tree canopy in the back that extends behind and above the proposed height of the new pole. So there's a bit of a backdrop there. And there is some decent screening from the common area facilities. and it's not located right adjacent to a residence. This is periodically occupying common area.
Oh, I do have a couple more sets of photos if you need.
Well, it's up to Madam Hearings Officer.
Yeah, I wanted to see that, that comparison, but, oh yeah, okay, I'll look at those. Yeah, so there is that backdrop of the trees.
Yep. So in this direction, you're probably looking to the southwest. On the highway would be, if you took a right at this intersection, 200 feet out this way. So it is, it's a residential single family neighborhood. But again, as opposed to, new cell phone towers that typically need to be up in the canopy to get that coverage, these cellular sites are covering, these microcell sites are covering a smaller area. So the infrastructure is not as significant.
And so Paul, when you reviewed the application, there was, the typical analysis showing the coverage gap. And that this location, they considered the other alternatives. As well as I noticed that so when they do the radio frequency, they confirm that it's within the FCC limits.
Yep.
There's a certificate for that, and that's part of the application. I didn't see it in the staff report. I just wanted to make sure that you saw it.
I did. The certificate is not in the staff report. It is in the file, but there is a narrative in the report about the FCC exposure limits.
Yes, and I saw the percentages, and so I figured you had taken those from the certificate.
I have.
Okay. And so I don't have any additional questions for Paul, but I'm happy to hear from the applicant.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Mark Vilbaugh. I'm with Epic Wireless here representing AT&T. So whenever we set about finding locations for these sites, the first thing we always try to do is find co-location opportunities, right? You want to use existing facilities wherever possible. It just makes sense. We built a lot of new towers up here. They're usually quite controversial and for good reason. So that's first and foremost why we selected this particular pole. This is utilizing an existing structure, although we call it a drop and swap. We drop the existing pole and swap it with a new pole. Yes, it does have to be somewhat taller because we're accommodating radio equipment on top of it. Does not affect there's no lake view effect. You can't see the lake from any view of this tower, which is a key component of what we try to do. It's not located near a trail or any other thing that would affect trail things. This thing really checks all the boxes that we try to accomplish when we're locating these new facilities. It will greatly enhance first responders' ability to communicate up here. I know fire department up here does use FirstNet. The FirstNet will be on this tower, so it's a critical piece of infrastructure. Interesting enough, I noticed that there was a letter of support that was also sent in that was not discussed, but I want to make you aware that there was a letter of support from a neighbor that lives right down the street from this.
It's attached to the report.
Okay, right.
So I understand that we did receive a letter from somebody with some concerns about visual impacts, but there was also a letter in the staff report in support of the project. So I would just leave you with those facts that this is utilizing existing structures, and it's going to be a real improvement for cellular coverage, broadband capability for residents and businesses alike. Landlines go down for power outages. This thing will continue to function. It's got a battery backup. We're not increasing ground coverage, which is another huge benefit, all existing.
Right, so the boxes that were in those photographs exist today. Yeah, and so those will be the same.
Right, and they're located off the ground on poles.
Yeah.
So there's no site coverage associated anyway, but
so it looks like, and this is just curiosity, is it wood? Is the new pole going to be,
it is wood.
It is wood, okay.
It's a stouter pole.
It's just a sturdier pole.
Engineered to, hold the intended equipment.
Okay, I don't have any additional questions.
Okay. Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. No one is in the room, so let's check online.
If any member of the public online would like to address the hearings officer on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You do have one hand raised, John Brook. Unmute yourself and you can make your comment.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Or unmuted.
We can hear you now.
Okay. I have a lot of concerns about with this project over and above what I originally put in my note, email to you guys, because I didn't know the extent of it, of this tower and what it looks like. My biggest problem is, and probably represented by, there's only 2 comments that have come in, that something of this, like this, I don't think there's been enough public outreach and knowledge about this. I've talked to several residents and owners in Dollar Point just today, because I only knew more about it yesterday, and they didn't have any idea of this. And everyone out of the 10 people, 10 different owners I talked to, are appalled at the size of this and what it's going to do to the entrance to Dollar Point, to this community. It is a subdivision of over 530 homes, and like I said, out of 10, small survey, all of them were appalled of this and didn't know about it. The way I found out about it was the Dollar Point Association, which is not a homeowner association. It basically only runs all the facilities in Dollar Point. It does not represent us. They took it upon themselves to send out the notice. We got it less than 12 days ago. So I think there needs to be greater outreach to get more public input about this, particularly in the Dollar Point area. I don't know if you guys just notified directly people within 300 feet or so of the tower, over the proposed tower. I don't know exactly what you guys do, but it wasn't sufficient. I also think there's a lot of things going on here that are not really forthright. Calling it a new pole top is not really very accurate. It's a new pole. It's a brand new pole that's going in. It is not 50 feet, it's 52 feet. If you took pictures, if you could do a rendering of this from the pool, from the diving board, from the lawn, from the common area, it sticks out way over the coverage. Coverage is lower level from that viewpoint. Coverage is lower level aspens, not the pine trees that you see. This is going to be a monstrosity going into Dollar Point. I understand the concerns about being close to the highway, and everyone's kind of used to that, but that's fine. I don't know what the other 2 alternatives or 3 alternatives were that were looked at, and I think it's really inappropriate for AT&T to think that just because they're doing on an existing utility, it's obviously less expensive for you, but that's not necessarily the best way. There are plenty of places across the highway where this could go in and not create this kind of entranceway to Dollar Point. What we're looking for, besides, I mean, I'm going on record saying I oppose this, and hope that the hearing officer will reject the staff's proposal or approval or recommendation. But more importantly, I think that this needs to be continued. If there's any chance that you guys could continue this and allow for more public outreach and more public comment, I think that would be great. The TRPA notice that I saw was I think from September 12th. Dollar Point Association forwarded it on the 14th. A lot of people haven't gotten to it yet. So if we can continue this and you could do more outreach to get more public comment, I think that would be an important part of what the TRPA could do. I'll finish right there.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask Paul to address the notice.
Yeah, so the required noticing for these types of projects is 300 feet from the project site boundary. So that's in our rules of procedure, and that is the same for all projects. However, over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years, we have extended that to a 1/4 mile. So we've just out of sort of an abundance of caution to go above and beyond the minimum necessary, we have noticed, and this was one of those notices, where it went from 300 feet to a quarter mile, which significantly expands the area of notification. And so I just wanted to make sure that was on the record. In regard to, the impacts of this tower, we often try and not locate these if possible, right, immediately next to residences. This is a common area parcel that is not occupied 24 hours a day. This is not a new cell phone tower that is, up into the canopy that sometimes we have to evaluate in certain locations because of the coverage needs. We are seeing more and more of these microcell sites fit in and around the neighborhoods because they are considered to be more compatible and less of a visual impact. And so, given that level of notification, given the design and location of the tower, given the lack of response from anybody located immediately adjacent to the tower, staff is not recommending a change in its recommendation.
Thank you. And I'm also wondering if the applicant's representative might want to address the alternatives. And there was the other issue that I heard raised. One was notice, the other was alternatives.
The alternatives that I attempted to, look into were all on large parcels. One of them was owned by Placer County. They just weren't interested in accommodating a cell tower site. I tried to potentially co-locate on a rooftop of an existing Verizon site on the fire station that I personally did that project years ago. That site would not adequately cover this location. Unfortunately, there aren't any existing poles, monopoles or monopines in the area that would serve this coverage objective. So really, this was our best alternative by a long shot. It doesn't contain all of the plastic that we're so worried about getting in the lake. It's painted brown, it blends in with the canopy. I mean, normally they would even be taller than this. This is actually a very respectable, location. And I drilled home the fact to AT&T that, we can't go crazy with a gigantic pole here. We need to be cognizant of the fact that it is in a residential neighborhood. And you can see this is not even taller than the trees. This is kind of where they're willing to settle for a kind of a substandard pole height that will still get the job done. And I think we've accomplished that. I really think that we've checked the boxes on this one.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so do we have any other public comment?
Yes, there are two other hands raised.
Okay.
Jane Mudge, if you unmute yourself, you can address the hearings officer.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're on 176 Edgewood Drive, which is not in the vicinity of who would be notified. And I don't know the previous speaker from our neighborhood, but what I can share is that we were notified in a similar fashion that it was a scan of the notice. And I think one of the reasons for the lack of comments is because although there may not be as many residents there, this is a location that a lot of residents use. And it would be nice if we could see a rendering from the poolscape to really understand. So that would be one suggestion. Secondly, I would want to be reassured that because it's going a bit taller, from a stability and security in a storm, both with knocking out lines and causing a fire, because we really can't have a fire in the neighborhood, everything would just go up, that's been addressed too. So that's my comment.
Thank you. So
Another comment?
We do have one other hand raised.
yes, let's go ahead and go to the next comment.
Okay. Todd Schneider, if you unmute yourself, you can address the hearings officer.
Okay, I believe I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. First of all, thank you for having the hearing. I have a couple of concerns about the pole. One is that it's at the entrance to a residential community. And while I understand that the AT&T is taking measures to make it less unsightly, it's nonetheless unsightly. Across the street, there is the cross-country area, which I think would be a much better site. I can't imagine how it would impact the usability of the feature, but it wouldn't be in a residential neighborhood. I know that some residents have concerns about the emissions and how they affect children. I don't know the science on that, but I know that there are concerns from residents around that. I am concerned about the notice. I received notice of this from my neighbors. I don't recall ever seeing a notice. That doesn't mean it wasn't sent, but because this area is both vacation homes and the amount of junk mail that people get about everything makes it unlikely they're going to notice this stuff come in. I would ask that notice be resent in a much more prominent way, maybe even postings in the neighborhood, so that residents could have the opportunity to understand and comment. I did receive the notice from neighbor and noticed that it had no photographs in it. I've now seen the photographs, and I think that the pole is much more unsightly than was described in the notice. And I see no reason why we can't delay this hearing for some time, such that affected members in the community could comment. I also note that the notice radius was much smaller than the number of affected people, given that this is one of two entrances to the community. So even those that weren't on the notice will likely be affected by this. Tahoe, as I don't need to explain, is a particularly beautiful place. And to mar that with large utility poles in the middle of a neighborhood makes no sense, I think, from a community standard standpoint. I understand that there's money involved and time is money, but ask that we take the considerations of complete notice and time and weigh in favor of complete notice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. So it sounds like we have three issues that have been raised. One is the notice. I think that the legal notice requirements were met and is in above and beyond because it did go out a quarter of a mile. In addition to that, the homeowners association resent the notice to all of the owners of the subdivision. The scenic evaluation was completed by staff. I would ask Paul if you have any concerns about the scenic evaluation and whether or not there should be any additional review.
So as a part of the evaluation of this project, we had to consider not just the impacts from the highway, but the special use findings. That does require essentially a neighborhood compatibility evaluation. So above and beyond potential scenic impacts from the highway. Given what we have seen with these types of projects, there's been a number of these, what we call microcell sites constructed around the South Shore. There's actually one in my neighborhood. There's some on the North Shore. There's probably 15 or 20 of these throughout the South Shore of Lake Tahoe. So we've seen them translated from sort of on paper permitting proposals to actually constructed and implemented in the communities. And what we're finding is that not only are they providing and plugging these service gaps, which are critical for first responders, but they are much more compatible with the environment. than these larger single monopine type towers that we have, seen in locations around the basin over the years. So we are encouraged by these microcell sites because of their ability to provide the service to blend with the neighborhoods. We have not heard of any health effects, or adverse unintended consequences of these things. The exposure level for this tower is, I think, 25% of the allowable FCC exposure limits. And given the need for these important public health and safety projects, we believe this is a suitable location.
Thank you. And so I have one last question for the applicant's representative. If you could just, again, I know you mentioned that you do look into co-location opportunities as kind of an initial step. But if you could just go over that one more time for me, the process of looking at co-location opportunities.
There were no co-location opportunities in this area. It's a difficult area to serve. There are a lot of residents here that they're trying to get service to. First responders, ambulance, fire, police, all those folks need to use cell phones. These are where the people are. So that's why the cell tower's here. This was a priority for AT&T because they track, drop calls, substandard service, and they're able to track this, and they know that this area is underserved. Currently, we provided that coverage map that shows outdoor coverage is nominal, okay? Indoor coverage is not good. And so, people don't want to run outside in the snow to make a phone call because they can't make a call inside. There's no connectivity. Not that it never works, but the service standard it's substandard. So, it's a vital service that's needed in the area.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was just one other. The first caller had some concerns with, I think, the structural integrity of the pole and so forth. This will go through the building department, who will review it. It's all completely engineered. All these are engineered and reviewed by Placer County. Also have to go through Placer County planning, but also the building department will also review these.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jessica, we got to all of the comments online?
Yes, there are no other hands raised.
All right, thank you. So I will close the public comment period. I don't have any additional questions, and thank you both for answering the ones that I did have. I'm going to go ahead and take action. I'm going to approve the findings contained in the staff summary, including a finding of no significant environmental effect. I'm going to approve the project based on the staff summary, the record evidence, and subject to the conditions contained in the draft TRPA permit. All right. So that wraps up our hearing items. And we'll go ahead and adjourn at 2:48.